There was an article from the Washington Post where a mom really wanted to be closer to her kids. She said, until recently, I sent my daughters I love you, sleep tight text every night. Started when my firstborn went off to college. And she goes on to say, ultimately, because her daughter didn't really answer her phone calls or respond to her phone calls, and her daughter really didn't respond to any emails, and her mom was carrying levels of anxiety of, is my daughter okay? Is that how you'd put it? I think you'd put it that way, Lauren, right?
Yes.
And so the only way she could get her daughter to respond was texting, love you, sleep tight, every night. And so she grafted in the other daughter when she grew up, and this carried on for decades. The daughters didn't like it. They felt it was intrusive. Like, who wants to get a text every night maybe somebody does. Mom, if you're watching, I do not want to get a good night text from you every night. It'd be weird to me. But at the end of the day, what she was striving for was closeness with her daughters. She wanted closeness. Would you say that's the case?
I'm not convinced that that's what her end goal was.
Tell us about her, what you think it is.
Sounds to me, because she's writing the article,
Yeah.
how she described it herself was she had anxiety whether her children were okay or not. And she wanted reassurance that they were okay at the end of every day, not that she was wanting closeness with them.
I'm sure that's under the surface there. But I agree. This was more of this isn't a relational problem. This is a me problem where I need to hear from my daughters because they might not be okay.
Exactly. It wasn't like, let's connect and talk about how life is and what's going on in your life. How can I help you? How can I be there for you? Whatever. It was, I want you to text me back so that I know you're okay.
That makes sense.
And texting is also not a great way to continue a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, if I just text someone for a while, I'm going to feel really out of sync. They're going to feel distant. But if I actually pick up the phone and call or FaceTime them, or even better, see them in person, that's entirely different.
But she did call, and the daughter ignored the calls. She ghosted her, so.
We don't know how often she was calling.
Yeah, at least once, because she said it.
Well, and as we talked about this, I would say it was primarily mothers got a little frustrated.
From what we can tell from text, yeah.
Yeah, but disagreed with our discussion about it. Because what I pointed out was, I remember I was in a small group at a table, I was sharing a meal at a Christian event, and it was primarily a bunch of moms and me. I was the hit of the table, trust me. It was great. Lots of laughing, lots of dad jokes. But there was a roundtable discussion about, basically almost every mother at this table was carrying a measure of deep sadness because their children left. Like, grew up, and they don't call me enough. They don't they had this longing for this deep connection that they used to have with their child when they were raising them. And as I talked with a spiritual mentor of mine, she was just like, well, yeah, that children don't owe their parents anything emotionally necessarily. Like, they have a right to draw boundaries in the relationship. And I saw this couple instead, my friends Ray and Nancy Kane, we've talked about this before, with their kids, their kids grew up, and you don't hear Nancy pining for more phone calls, for grandkids, for all this. She doesn't it doesn't freak her out, because what she's excited about is her kids are living their lives. They've launched their kids into their future, and her husband Ray are just trying to follow Jesus and be close at whatever level their kids are interested in. But a lot of people listening didn't like that idea. It's like, no. My children should call me regularly and talk to me. They owe this to me. And I'm sad that they don't. I want to dig in more to this and share some of the comments folks had. Get Pastor Tank's thoughts. I know you ladies have lots of thoughts about this as well. We'll get to more here on Mornings with Brian in just a minute. One of the articles that really struck a chord with many of you listening was one from the Washington Post called, "Want to be closer to your adult children? Stop texting them." It was a mom who was really anxious that her children were okay, even as 30-year-old women, her daughters. And so she'd try to text them every night to get a response. And with that, I think she was longing for closeness. And she talked about some lessons she learned here. We had a lot of people respond because both of you, I don't want to speak for you. Like, generally speaking, Lauren, we'll start with you. What's your take on the level of closeness you ought to have with your parents? Like, you want your mom texting you every night?
No, I do not want my mom texting me, "Good night, I love you," every night.
How often would you like to communicate with your parents?
Well, I shared that I communicate in a family group text, the 5 of us, me and my parents and my 2 sisters, like daily. Someone's going to text in there something, and just sharing what's going on in each other's lives or stuff like that. We texted yesterday. I'm sure someone will text in there today.
But like Daria said, I mean, texting is texting. It's not
You're
like
ask-
connection. Like,
Yeah, you're asking about a phone call?
yeah, how often are you talking to or FaceTiming your parents?
Probably once a week.
And, is that enough for you?
Yes.
Do you want more?
No.
What if your mom wants more?
Then she's going to need to share that with me. I can't read her mind. I can't fulfill expectations that I don't know about.
But to some extent, like if she said, no, I want to talk every day, are you comfortable with that?
No.
Okay. Daria, what about you?
Yeah, I call my parents at least once a week. I go visit them probably once a month. But if they said, hey, we really want to hear from you every single day, I would have a problem with that. Not because I don't love them, but because I do need a little bit of distance from my parents. I'm an adult. I'm not a child anymore. I love them dearly. But I have other things going on. If we were having an extended phone call every day, that would become quite the burden on my time. I have a job. I have other people I enjoy seeing. I have a house. I've got my husband. Yes, I've got a house I have to keep clean.
Now, one person wrote in and said to both of you, essentially, it's easy for you to say you don't have adult children, so you can't relate. So it's easy for you to make those comments. You sound kind of cold-hearted.
But I am the adult child.
Right, but
I'm the opposite end.
well, but what she's saying is that you don't. So since Trey and Ellis are still little, you don't understand the pain of a mother when her son has grown up and doesn't call every day.
You're right, I don't. I'm not sure what else you want me to say. You're right, I don't understand what it's like to have an adult child, but I am an adult child in relationship with my parents.
And there's a deep frustration, and I have not experienced this with a whole lot with my parents, but I know some people who have. There's a real frustration when it seems like your parents won't let you go and won't let you grow up. So it more than just like, oh, I want to be close to you, incessant calling and texting really feels like infantilization, and like I need you in my life so desperately that I can't let you live this life that you're crafting for yourself.
And this particular texter saying that sounds cold-hearted. Like if your mom wants to be close or your dad, you should yield. Like as in you should talk. If your parents want to talk to you every day, you're the child. Honor your parents. Yield.
Who's to say I'm not close with my parents?
Yeah.
You don't know what a relationship looks like just because I'm not calling them literally every single day. That doesn't mean we're not. If I called them every day, I don't think we'd have anything to talk about.
Yeah, I don't got much to say.
What am I going to
Not much
say
to
every single
say.
day? I mean, I don't know if I would have that much to talk about with my husband, who I'm married and live with.
But we've got a lot of Christian moms. I think what they're saying is honor your father and mother, which means if your mother, even as an adult child, if your mother wants to talk to you every day, you should yield.
Honoring doesn't mean doing everything that your parents ask you to do.
Yeah, I think okay. So I think we're conflating kind of two things, though. I think I would love to know which listener thinks that you should talk to your parents on phone every single day, and that's like I would love to know like is that really what they mean? Because I think anybody in a healthy place could acknowledge that is a lot. Now, if we're talking about is it excessive? Now, I think what I would agree is and I'm a dad, so I do have a position on this, but I'll wait till you want me to share it. But I think what I would agree with the listeners was if mom, dad was saying to children that they have relationship with, close relationship, raised, good, healthy relationship with, was saying, hey, I would just like to at least hear from you once a week. And then Lauren and Daria was like, that's crazy. No, you can't hear from me once. I would be like, yeah, okay, that's a little cold. Like, what? Like, you can't pick up the phone once a week? Like, maybe y'all don't have a relationship. But I think if it's like every single day, I'm with Daria, and that is like, man, I'm married. And I was like I remember dating my wife and we talked on the phone for hours every single day. And I'm like, we don't do that now because it's like, it ain't that much to talk about.
The days are like the same.
What you doing? I'm at work. Okay.
But I've encountered so many adult children who have a consistent conversation with, let's just say, their mother. And it would be this. The mother goes, I sure wish you called more often. I know you're so busy, but I don't hear from you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear from you. And I'm not trying to make fun, but that is a very consistent thing. A discontent mother that her adult child is not calling her enough.
Yeah.
And that's how she addresses it. It says, you sure don't call me very much. I would like to hear from you more.
So let me just so as a man that was raised by my father, this is a conversation that my father has with me as a man. Son, I wish you'd call me. Now, my dad's argument's a little bit more valid than probably the article, because I just don't call. But I'm like, but that's, and it used to frustrate me. But I'm like, anybody that know me, I'm not a phone person. Like if you look at, well, this is actually low right now. I think I told you that before, like text messages, phone call. Like my wife goes in and clears text messages and phone, because I don't like I like a phone for my social media purposes, not so people can reach me on them. Like it's the worst thing I think ever was created was a phone and a text message. I think text messages are way more intrusive than phone calls.
No wonder you didn't respond to me.
Because
no,
it's just,
what about your dad?
Okay, my bad. So
what did you say to your dad?
Yeah, so growing up, when we actually just had this conversation like last month too, and I'm always saying to my dad, this is the selfish side of me now. I want to give the second side of me. I'm always saying to my dad, Pops, man, like I'm busy. Like I need you to understand. Like you need to understand the complexity of my life, and I'm really that busy. And so, and you know, my dad's always like, you ain't too busy to just stop by every now and then. My dad, like, I don't want you to, my dad he wouldn't answer the phone if I called him every day either. Like, so it's like, so his point is more like, yo, like, I'm your dad. I'm not getting any younger. I'm getting older. Your time with me is not going to be much longer. You know what I'm saying? By much longer, I mean, like, my dad's not 80, but you know what I'm saying? He's 60, 65, 66. So his point is, hey, listen, boy, like I raised you. Now you can come see your dad. Come talk to your dad. I'm getting older. You know what I'm saying? And I always just like, man, I'm just busy.
But that's the exchange you're talking. I've heard people say it too. He's like, I raised you. What he's saying is, you owe me a visit.
And I actually, now here's the thing. As a father now with an adult child, so I have an adult child. I have an 18-year-old daughter.
As do I, sir.
As a father, I understand him more, and I think I lean more towards I raised you your whole life. Yes, the least that I can get from you is a phone call. I ain't asking you to give me the money back I done spent. I ain't asking you to take care of me. I'm not asking you to pay my light bill, mortgage. Well, some people may, but me, right? Or my dad. Well, the least I'm saying is call your dad, check on me. And I feel like with an 18-year-old, because I feel like the mother, you know what I'm saying? Me and you were talking about that. Like, it's kind of the season of life where I'm in, where I'm grieving as a father, realizing like, oh, no, I have an adult child, and what I would want it to look like is not how it looks like. And being that dad that's like, and it's kind of weird because it's like, I told my daughter, I said, hey, listen, I'll call you at least twice a week, right? But then it's like, really twice a week is too much for me too, right? So it's like, dang it, I forgot to call. So it's like once a week, right? But then it's like, and my daughter's always gonna pick up the phone when I call. She's always gonna respond back like that because she also is 18. So I think there's a life progression that has to be talked about. Are we talking about a 30-year-old daughter? Because an 18-year-old is just grown. Like, no, she needs.
I think that's different than what we're discussing here. Picture the adult child being Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
2 small children, a husband.
Okay.
Because
this
mom said she did it for 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and so.
Okay, I got you.
And I understand, and we have to take a break. I understand that feeling because I have it too. It's like, you know how much money I spent on you? You know how much time I spent on you? You know how many times I changed your diaper?
And I'm
the least
probably
you can
still
do is
paying
give me
your
a
phone
call.
bill.
The least you can do is give me a call. I understand that feeling because I've had it. The question becomes, to what extent is that healthy and biblical?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think we're going to get a Bible verse on it.
But let's talk about that here in just a couple of minutes. We're really striking a chord having a great conversation about an important issue that's somewhat tied to honor your father and mother. But at the end of the day, we found an article in the Washington Post where a mother of adult women in their 30s, drove her daughters nuts by texting them every night, good night. She was scared. She was anxious. She wanted to know the daughters were okay. And behind that, she wanted closeness with her daughters. But what she was doing was pushing them away. And what we're trying to discuss, because this is a very, very common problem, you've got adult children that don't call you enough and you're upset, whoever you are, or mom, dad, whoever it is. A lot of times it's mom, and you want a closer relationship. And so we interestingly have 2 adult women with us who are in a phase of life of building independence and doing their own thing. Lauren's got 2 kids. Daria's got a Jimmy.
I've got cats too.
And cats. And so there's this, you're experiencing the tension in some respects. You're not like this mom necessarily, like your parents aren't like this mom, but
No. Yeah.
you're saying, no, I don't want to talk to you every day. I don't want to have, I'm not looking for that. I have a life I need to live with my husband and my children. And we just got a text from somebody who I think is probably a little frustrated with what you're saying.
Sure.
Can you share it with us and then talk about it?
I'm 66 and it's important to me. She put that in quotes, so that's why I'm putting that there. It's important to me, for my mom, to know that I want to connect with her either by phone or text every day. I know it means a lot to her. She doesn't need it, so to speak, but she poured herself into me. Just knowing she loves our relationship includes day-to-day something. By the same token, my early 40s children hurt me a great deal, and they don't even realize it, that they seem too busy to find connection in life important. Not a lot of time at all. No offense to the ladies, but they are coming across somewhat selfish. That's how I perceived my children this way. They are selfish, and it grieves me in my heart. So sad that seemingly difference in generations in that way.
And I think Valerie is exemplifying the feeling of a mother of adult children. I've heard this very frequently. What's your thought on that, Lauren? Like, what went through your head when you read it?
It seems to be that our listeners are assuming that I never speak to my parents, that I don't care about them at all, and that I have no relationship with them, and I don't even want to speak with them. And that's not at all what I've said.
Yeah.
And that's not at all what Daria has said. What's actually true is, I've said multiple times, we have a family group text that I text with my family every day. I don't want a phone call every day. Number one, I have nothing much to say. In like most of my life, I don't have much
You don't
to
much
say.
to say to me.
Yeah, exactly. And Brian tries to call me every day. I have not much to say. My days are very monotonous. My days are the same. I have 2 small children. I go to work, I come home, I change diapers, and then I go to sleep and do it all over. There's not much in my life to share that changes. If it does, I'm going to text it to my family group chat. Because my parents still work. They're busy. They have a thriving social life. I lived with them for a year. They were way more busy than I was. So, and also, if I come home from work and I'm spending time with my kids, I'm being a mom myself to my 2 small children, and I'm on the phone every day with my mom, my son gets mad at me when I'm on my phone.
Because he wants time with you.
Yes. He says, "Mommy, be done." And so if I'm on my phone every single day, then I'm also taking away time from my children that I'm in the thick of raising right now. And so, and also that's not something that my parents want.
Yeah. We can't project onto your parents
Exactly.
the same feelings that the texter or the writer in the Washington Post has.
Yeah, my
can't
mom was
project
just here for an entire week spending time with us. She's going to come back in a month to be here for 4 or 5 days.
Well, if you can jump back to that text, I saw a couple of things as well that I hear and see a lot, and I don't know how to fix this because I see it in family relationships close to me as well. It's the this particular mother said that she's hurt by her children,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know it because she hasn't told them.
Right.
And I think that with all due respect and very gently saying that's not healthy. If you are hurt, you ought to talk to somebody about it. The scripture talks about that. If someone offends you or hurts you, you should go and talk to them about it. I think that would be a healthy way to handle it. But then I also often hear this thing of the mother of adult children saying, "My kids never call me. I wish they did. So I sit here and wait for them to call." Knowing Lauren, knowing my wife and how her
Mhm.
life works, if you have adult daughters in particular, and you want to talk to them, don't wait around. Pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
Like, this is not what you're waiting for is the self-affirmation that you're being thought of and that your daughter called you on her own. If you want to talk to her, just pick up the phone. You're making it a dysfunctional game.
Yeah.
Does that mean? Sorry, correct me, Pastor.
No. I don't think it's mean. I do think. I think I sit on both sides of the conversation. I agree. I don't think Daria or Lauren was selfish at all. I think I think we're reading into. Well, one, I think we've conflated two conversations together now. That's kind of, it's like from text messages to everyday calls to once a week calls. It's like, wait, which one are we saying is selfish?
But it all gets down to this tension between
Yeah.
adult children and their parents
No,
of
facts.
not agreeing on how close they ought to be.
Yeah, I think there is a part of me as a father, and this may be unhealthy. I'm not sure. I think there is a part of me of a father who, I think there's a part of human beings, period, who do want to feel thought of, right? And so I do think there is a part of me of a father who would rather not have to only communicate with my children, and I'm projecting out because this is not like the current situation necessarily. My adult kid, she 18, so I'm going to talk to her. I know when I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to talk to her real time. I'm going to talk to her when
It's
she
only
want
a matter of time till she
when she
calls.
want to come home. I'm going to talk to her because she need a ride.
Preach, brother. Preach. I know exactly what you're saying.
Right. So I know I'm going to hear from my kid for sure. But I'll tell you an example though. My birthday is on Tuesday, and one of the things that my daughter does know is like I've always felt like, hey, you don't give her like a lot of attention and care to my birthday, right? And I tell her like, hey, like it's Dad's birthday. Like, I thank you for the hot fries, but I would just like a little more thought, right? And so she texted me like last week, and she's like, hey, Dad, I'm gonna be home. Obviously, for my daughter's Kensei, she like, so I'll be home all week or whatever. Hey, let me know what you want for your birthday. You got a limit, and she gave me like a number limit, which is okay. Now she growing up. Give me a little money. And so, she like, we take you to your favorite steak place, and if you know me, then you know what type of limit she gave me because I eat nice steaks places, and so she like, or I can just get you whatever you want. I literally responded back to her, Brian, it's whatever you want. And it really didn't matter to me if I go get a steak or if she gets me something. The fact that for the first time, I really felt like my daughter wanted to celebrate me was the present enough. So I feel like there is this thing where it feels, we do want to feel like we are considered or cared about by the children that we did have to put first in our life for at least 18 years. But I think it becomes unhealthy to what you were saying when you put a burden on the relationship that now the kid feels like, man, if I don't ever do this, all of a sudden my dad think I don't care. Now I got to do this to feel like for my dad to think I care. And I know, and my daughter probably might say like, sometimes you do that, Dad. And I probably would say, I probably do. There's some unhealthy stuff there, you know what I'm saying?
No parent's perfect.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, listen, I'm a dad trying to figure out this adult kid thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm I
yeah,
don't know
me
how
too.
to do this well. I miss my kid, you know?
Yeah.
But I have. We're gonna have to take a break here in just a second. But I think it's not going to be people aren't going to like this. I have a controversial theory.
Come with it.
So I know a couple of marriage counselors, and they've told me that about 10% of Christian marriages are truly healthy.
Mm.
A lot of Christians, what they do is they say, well, Christians don't get divorced, so we're not going to get divorced. But they are in a very unhealthy marriage that doesn't have relational closeness. And I think a lot of Christian families are disordered in the way they ought to be ordered. As in, it's supposed to be love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Our love for Jesus should supersede every love in our life.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us, I struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's for your spouse.
Facts.
And then it's with your kids.
Yeah, facts.
And I think if you're properly ordered in your life,
It's valid.
you should be able to, as your children grow, release them, cheer for them, have them go off into the world to do their thing. And like in my case, I got 5 kids. I'm venturing to guess one of them is going to want to have a deep level of closeness with Sarah and me and talk a lot. And one of them I might hear from once a year. And what I need to be able to do is go, God bless you. I barely have room for you. You know why? Because I've got the Lord and I've got my wife.
Without y'all. Now.
Yeah. And so and here's where, and we're going to take a break after I get this one because I'm going to let it sit there. I don't want to tell you the label of it because it's a really horrible label. But the reality of it is that there's a dysfunction that's created when a marriage is unhealthy. When you have a Christian marriage, for example, where the husband and wife do not have emotional closeness, they should. They should have spiritual closeness, physical closeness, and emotional closeness. My emotional needs should be met by my wife in a relationship context. But if that breaks down, a parent will often get their emotional needs met by their child. And that is deeply unhealthy.
Gotcha.
So it's the mom or the dad. Maybe it's because of a divorce. Maybe it's because of whatever. Or maybe it's because just an emotionally absent spouse. They begin to get their emotional needs met by their child, and that carries on into adulthood. And that is all kinds of dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And I'd venture to guess a lot of the situations we're hearing about, there may be some emotional work to do in a marriage relationship that would solve this. And you'd be able to cheer for your adult children that don't call you. You won't even think about them not calling you as much as you'd like because you're happy for them. But maybe I'm nutty. 440-546-2255.
Moody Radio is thankful for support from listeners and businesses like Deerfield Ag Services. They help in adaptation of new technologies and techniques of farm and business management. More information about Deerfield Ag and how they can help is at deerfieldagservices.com.
Prayer works. Have you ever acknowledged God's supremacy in prayer? Dr. Erwin Lutzer illustrates.
Our Father, in the name of Jesus, we renounce confidence and trust in ourselves. We renounce confidence and trust in techniques. We have faith only in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and in His Son, Jesus Christ. And we believe in the Holy Spirit granted to the church to bring a message of freedom and hope to a world that is being so seductively deceived. Thank you, Father, for our faith which guides us in a world of confusion. In Jesus' name, amen.
Why does prayer matter? Learn more at moodyradio.org/prayer.
For King and Country. Are you available the weekend of April 19th? Great, because we're thinking we'd like to send you to Nashville to meet them. Moody Radio will send you and a friend to a 3-day event at the Country Music Hall of Fame hosted by Joel and Luke Smallbone. Pre-release movie screening of Unsung Hero, private listening party, podcast recording, and more. Enter to win at moodyradio.org/unsung. No purchase necessary. Contest ends March 31st at midnight. moodyradio.org/unsung.
Bringing Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania closer to Christ, one conversation at a time. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Heyo, it's 7:49, Follow-Up Friday, WCRF. We got Pastor Tanks with us today from Reach City Church.
What's goody, yo?
And man, he said good morning. We've got a wonderful conversation happening that really strikes a chord with many families. I hear this all the time. Christian families experience this a lot. It's from a Washington Post article where really what you have is primarily mothers of adult children, but some fathers, are dissatisfied with the level of closeness with their children. And there's varying levels of passive aggressiveness or frustration or whatever it is that happens as a result. And a lot of parents of adult children want closeness that they don't have. Mm-hmm. And many of them are lashing out at Lauren and Daria today.
Come on.
In some of the comments. But you saw a theme pop up even last time we discussed this week.
Yeah, when we discussed it earlier this week, and it seems like also today, a lot of the comments are, well, my parents are dead and I wish I had more time. My parents are dead and you're going to wish, or your parents are going to die and you're going to wish that you talked to them more. Right now, I'm comfortable with the amount of time I speak to my family.
Like you wouldn't, if your mother was hit by a bus right now, you'd be sad.
I would be sad because I miss my mom, but I'm not going to feel guilt that I didn't talk to her enough.
Right.
I would feel sad that I don't have her in my life anymore and that I can't call her when I want to, but I don't feel guilty that I didn't talk to her enough. I would be sad that I can't call her right this second, but that's not the same as feeling guilt that I didn't call her enough. Mm.
I think guilt's a really terrible place to live in, especially when we're talking about preemptive guilt. That's not healthy. And I'm with Lauren. I have I mean, I don't get offended and I've got really thick skin, but I honestly am kind of upset by some of the comments that were selfish or cold-hearted because of setting boundaries with our parents, boundaries that my parents have agreed to, for the record. I'm seeing them this weekend. I call them quite frequently. I love my parents, but I also have other things that I have to do. And I'm the same way with Lauren. If they were to die tomorrow, I would miss them terribly, but I would not have regrets over the way we are currently set up, because I have a great relationship with them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of parents say, I want my child to talk to me more. I want them to call me more. I want them to text me more. Why can't you call them? Why can't you text them? A relationship is a two-way street.
Because it doesn't mean as much. Because they'd rather be remembered and called as opposed to, I don't want to bother them.
I understand. And unfortunately, just life is too busy sometimes for that. As I talked about earlier this week, me and my dad have a scheduled now meeting of when we're going to talk on the phone. That doesn't make it less connection time. That doesn't make it less important because it's scheduled.
It actually fits well with your personality. What? You're raising it. He's worshiping.
Listen, because I'm Lauren, I'm with you, my sister, because none of my family listens, so we should be good. I shared it on Facebook. Anyway, well, I might have to have a phone call. But anyway, so no, because I agree. Like I have family members, and we're not even parents, but just family members. And it's like, hey, let's get something on the calendar. Let's get something scheduled. And it's like, wow, I got to be fit into your schedule. And I'm like, I'm fitting you into my schedule because I value you. Because the people that I don't value, they don't get put in my schedule, which means there's no guarantee that they get connection with me. Because if you're not in this little tiny phone thing right here, you might get forgotten about. Right. And it's like me scheduling you is an act of love and me showing you that I value our time and I value it so much. I want to make sure that it's blocked off in my life so that it doesn't get pushed to the side by just the regular daily activities. But some people really do feel, Lauren, that to be put in a schedule is like, oh, I'm like, this is a business transaction. It's like, no, this is a love transaction.
Yeah. I've made time for you when I don't have any because I value you. And her dad sent a really sweet text. Would you mind sharing that again?
Sure.
Because I thought it was direct, it was clear, and it meant a lot to you.
Yeah, it did mean a lot to me. Hold. See, look, I'm scrolling up. Look how much I text my dad. Gosh. Sheesh. Okay. I would love to set up a standing phone conversation with you every 2 weeks. It doesn't need to be long. I just want to improve my intentionality with you. Would you be open to that? If so, what days and times are best for you? Heart.
I love that.
It's very sweet and very
Absolutely
direct.
love it. I mean, if there's an issue with the relationship, the onus is equally on you as the other person to confront the issue and say, hey, I wish we were closer. I sense some tension or whatever. Let's work on this. Let's find out something that we can maybe both be happy with. And honestly, if the other person doesn't have a desire to speak to you, then there could be another issue in the relationship where maybe you need to seek therapy.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the trends in disownment, I brought this up before, but as I was studying for my podcast series, it's very frequent now that someone will disown their parent because they try to love them too much. As in, they won't separate themselves from me and allow me to be a person independently. They've created a codependent relationship.
Okay.
And so I'm cutting you off because I need to establish who I am. It sounds weird, but it's being smothered and enmeshed with your parents in a very unhealthy way. But again, I'm convinced if you're in a marriage relationship, you're still married to the children of your parent or the parent of your children. Work on that, being very emotionally close. Work on loving Jesus with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And I think your pining for your child to call you every day will dissipate.
Yeah, and I think what I appreciate about the text from my dad is he said, I want to work on my intentionality with you, not you don't call me enough, which I don't. I didn't with my dad. I call my mom a lot more often than I'd call my dad.
That's because, they talking about these mothers. Like, we can get us talk about these dads. Because the mothers feel it, the dads get it way less.
Yeah, they never call us.
They never call us.
Bro, I don't know how many times Sarah would be like, oh, Grace called and she told me all about this. She did what?
Right.
I was just sitting here.
I know my kids is okay because my wife tell me.
But he didn't make it about me. He didn't guilt trip me.
Facts. That's good. That's good.
It's a relationship. He said, I want to improve my intentionality with you, not you don't call me enough.
Yeah.
Even if that is to be true, he's saying, I have some work to do here too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just you're wrong, even if I was in the wrong.
Yeah, we got this text. I'd like to read that. So good. Somebody said, as a mother, my child will owe me nothing when they get older. It's my privilege to raise my child. If I did it right, then they'll most likely want a relationship with me of some sort when they grow up. Regardless, my doors are always open and I'll respect their choices. That's the approach that Sarah and I have had. I'm not saying it's right, but that's what we have as well. Like, we're excited. It's still like a decade away.
Yeah.
When it'll be just the two of us and we can continue working on our marriage, and my emotional needs will be met by her, and my kids will be in my life to the extent they want to be.
Can I make a comment on this though?
No, just kidding. Yes, of course.
Because what I don't like about this text is that if I did it right, they'll want.
Oh, sure.
Here's where I disagree with that, because this is the part of the conversation that I think should. And as we're talking, I'm thinking through it, and I'm like, because one of you said it earlier. It's like, I think it was Lauren. It's like expectations that I don't know about. Just like we talk about in marriages, like we talk about in friendships, any level of relationship, we always say, hey, you have to have conversations around expectations around relationships. And so I don't think it's if I did good, because reality is people go off, love their parents, start doing life. And it's not that you didn't raise me well and our communication is short. It's just that, hey, we never even learned, we never had a conversation of what the transition from child to adult looks like. And so because we never had a conversation, most times we expect what was given to us, right? And so I think that possibly what could help these conversations or these communication barriers is kind of what you've been saying too, is, hey, can we sit down and just map out, or even what your dad did? It's like, hey, as your parent, I understand you need to go be an adult, be grown, do all of this, right? And we all want them out of our house when they're in our house, right? But then you start, as you get older, you realize, like, I'm actually going to miss you when you're gone. But it's like having that conversation and saying, hey, what do you think? Let's create a parental, whatever, expectation. Let's talk through kind of what you kind of want from me now as you're an adult, and kind of what I would love to get from you as my adult kid. And maybe having those conversations now, it creates an expectation, or at least creates an understanding that now opens up a communication portal that becomes satisfying to both child and satisfying to the parent. I think maybe there's just an issue that we just don't talk about how to transition, and you just expect as a parent, I did good, my kid gonna call me all the time.
Well, right, and I agree with your pushback on that, because the reality is, if I believe the gospel, and I do,
facts,
I'm a sinner.
Yep, and these kids,
in thought, word, and deed. So as a parent, I'm going to fall short.
Yeah,
dramatically so, in areas I'm not even aware of right now.
Big facts.
And so, if I won't raise them right, I'm going to make some big mistakes. And perhaps the key to relationship is owning it.
Yeah.
And not presuming I did a good job, therefore you owe me something.
No, that's real.
I mean, the gospel teaches us to approach things differently.
Absolutely.
It's Follow-Up Friday. We're going to wrap up a discussion we've been having, and then we're going to shift gears a little bit here. Lauren, you had a final text you wanted to address.
Yeah, I'm going to summarize it. It's too long to read in full. But in summary, Brian and therefore Pastor Tanks can't really say anything about this topic because you have newly adult children. Daria and I can't say anything because we don't have any life experience. I'm not adding to that. That's what they said, is that Daria and I can't talk because we don't have any life experience. And so I would like to throw it to Ron, who does have a life experience and adult children who are my age. So Ron, what do you make of all of this discussion?
Well, I was wondering when you whippersnappers would look over here.
I wanted you to call, but you wouldn't.
But
Yeah.
you would.
Okay. First off, I wanted to say, Lauren, you made a good point about it goes both ways. That if you want to reach out, if you want to be reached out to, you might need to be the one reaching out. I think the Bible says if you want to be a friend, you must first show yourself to be friendly. And so, the impetus can go both ways. One thing that crossed my mind in this discussion was our society, we tend to move a lot now, but if you have stayed in the same locality, you didn't, the adult child didn't choose to move away, the parent didn't choose to move to Florida or Arizona or something, and you're still in that same locality, if you want to communicate with your child, offer to help them, especially when they've got young children. They need your help.
You and Anna did that.
Yeah, we do a lot with our grandkids. My daughter lives, right in our same community. And you'll have no end of discussions with your child then. You're part of the grandchildren's life. You see things, they get frustrated and they'll be like, oh, my child's doing this and that. Oh, well, they're really good when they're with us, or I've noticed this too. And so there's a lot that you can do to encourage communication. Now, if they're farther away, one of you or both of you have moved apart, then it does become more difficult. But my boys still call my wife quite a bit. And sometimes, like for me, I text them with funny things or things that I know are of particular interest to them. I text my youngest son recently because I wanted to get a new streaming device for one of our TVs, and the Amazon product was on sale. So I asked, you've got one of these. Do you like it? Blah, blah, blah. And that, gave us a reason to exchange. I don't just send, good night, sleep tight. Those kind of
Love
things.
you, little buddy.
Yeah. But I do have a relationship with my oldest granddaughter where she started sending texts every night. Good night, I love you. And
That's
so
sweet.
I respond right away to those because I'm like, yes, please, I'll take more of that. So I don't know if that's helpful as part of the discussion.
Well, okay, how about this? Because you're not over there afraid to disagree with anybody because you're Ron Eastwood. You can do anything.
Pretty much.
What did you hear from Lauren or Daria or me or Tanks where you're like, wrong?
With the original poster, I guess, that was doing the good night, I love you text, I think it sounded like she had tried calling.
Correct.
And it just didn't work. Her daughter, or I assume it was her daughter,
Yes.
just did not respond.
Didn't answer, didn't call back.
Ghosted her. And maybe you just got to let that go. I don't know if any of you said as much as that, but
As in the mom of the adult child needs to just let it go?
yeah. You
Let go of your child in communication?
Yes. Don't cling to it. I mean, you can still try reaching out, but don't think that they have to respond to you. I think Daria mentioned that it's more a sign of a problem on the part of the clingy party, which in that case was the mother of the adult child. If you find yourself being that clingy, maybe you need more friends. Maybe you need to see a therapist and understand. And I'm not saying that you're a psycho and you need to go in a padded room.
No, but you may be codependent, which is a legitimate diagnosis.
Right. Counselors can help provide a distinct viewpoint that's different from what we see of ourselves. We're writing our own novel and we're the star of our own movie, and we don't see what's going on in everybody else's lives that maybe a counselor could help. But yeah, do what you can. Try not to be pushy. Don't expect anything, and be happy when you do get something back.
Ron Eastwood. I think the final piece I can put on this before a break as well would just be I've learned from some spiritual direction that when we experience pain in life, right, we have two choices: react or reflect. Pain is God's invitation to reflect. But we don't have to accept it. We can just react and be traumatized and be dramatic. So if you're experiencing pain in a relationship with your child, rather than trying to change them, why don't you reflect? Do some reflection. See what God's invitation is for you in the midst of that pain, for you to grow. And maybe you'll find it.